Now, I have a question here, and this is from Keon. Keon always sends us questions, all the time. Shout out to him. Keon, thank you so much for sending us different questions because, I like for us to have conversations and, answer as much as we can. So for those that are listening, watching, make sure to send those questions, all right? So here's the question. Here goes.
What's going on, Gamer Tag Radio? How are you good brothers doing? This is Keon calling from Baltimore. I just wanted to ask you guys, are we headed towards a gaming crash? The only reason why I ask that now is because everything is going up. We are going in the opposite direction for the first time in gaming history of console prices. Things aren't getting cheaper, they're getting higher. So what? One of the Xbox Series X's is like 700 and something dollars, what, 720 bucks, which is like more than the PlayStation 5 Pro. At this point, the Series S, which was supposed to be the entry level to get people into the ecosystem, that thing is teetering on $400 now. So gaming prices are going up to $80, 90, if you're Nintendo, depending on what game it is. But I'm just wondering, we know that us, the hardcore, we're going to support the hobby. This is the thing that we love. This is the thing we enjoy. But we know that we are far outnumbered, from the casual audience. So with these prices, are the casual audience really going to adopt the hardware the way that they would have back in the last generation when things were a lot cheaper? And if less people are adopting the hardware, how many games are going to sell? If that is the case. So I was just curious to know what are you guys' thoughts on this. As always, you guys are the best, awesome podcast, and I greatly appreciate everything that you guys do. And with that being said, you guys take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yeah, shout out to Keon for that for that question. Here, I'm going to read this to you, Keon. I'm going to read this to you, and I got this. I know this question was sent back in May from Keon. This is when we found out about the Xbox price increase. I know PlayStation in different regions, the price went up, like for the PS5. And this is when we also found out about the price of the Nintendo Switch 2. During that time, it was a huge controversy also with Mario Kart being $80 and all that stuff. Now, do I agree with the prices? No. Companies were, for years, they were trying to figure out a way for them to increase the prices of their products. It took a long time. When the whole thing was happening with tariffs, that's when companies were like, okay, this is the perfect time to do it. So it happened at the time in May. People were talking, is Nintendo gonna sell their console? The number's gonna be high or low? And I got this from Nintendo. And it says, Nintendo Switch 2 set record selling over 3.5 million units globally in 4 days. Now, Mario Kart World also been selling a lot of copies, and so on. If you are a fan of anything, it could be gaming or not gaming, you're going to go and buy it because you're going to be using this product for a very, very long time or whatever it is, right? So, again, do I agree with companies raising it? No. But I also understand why they're doing it. Steam Deck is not cheap. People have been buying it. Now, is it like Nintendo Switch 2 numbers? No, but it's selling. Gaming PC has been increasing the past couple years, right? PC gaming is not cheap. That is not cheap at all, man. That's way more expensive than consoles. Look, just the PC what I have over here, that's a good 3 to 4 G's. Just that alone. You know what I'm saying? So, Pete, how much is your PC if you gather everything, everything together, like price-wise? If you have a range, how much it is in yours?
I mean, are we talking including the keyboard, monitor, mouse, everything involved?
That's part of your PC. Everything is part of it.
Like this whole rig right here, I'm probably 8 to 10 easily, all in.
Woof! Wow! Oh my god!
Yeah,
see, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. Now
it is what it is.
Here's the thing, though, man. Like I understand that people, been talking a lot about this. I remember at that time in May, there was a lot of videos of people saying, "I'm not buying a Switch 2 because of the price, Mario Kart, blah blah blah, blah blah blah." But then when it came out, they actually bought it too. So at the same time, you can't really, think that when you see a creator complaining about something and then they're buying it, once it comes out, are you going to take them seriously too? Because it's all that clickbait, So it's okay for us to have conversations, but people getting angry on video, like just on camera here, just to do a clickbait content, I really don't take that type of content serious. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, Pete, what's your thoughts about this? I don't think it's a video game crash because it's still selling. Back in the 80s, that was a video game crash because people lost confidence on buying products of gaming at that time because Atari was releasing a lot of garbage at that time. And then when Nintendo came out in 84 in Japan, 85 in the States, that's when confidence came back. People started buying games, So that's a video game crash around that time. But I don't think so. Like 2025, I don't think so at all. It's selling. Games are selling.
Well, let's think about first and foremost what led to the crash, like you said. We had retail closures, consumer interest dropped, bankruptcy of major companies, like you said, Atari. But outside of that, it was saturation, way too many consoles, way too many games of high quality, which I think is something that I wouldn't be surprised if some people could say is, and I think this is what Keon was alluding to. We've got Danny's favorite 12 SKU scenario. We've got PlayStations, we've got the Switches, you've got now we've got handhelds permutating into the market. Handhelds. Okay, we got handhelds permutating the market. Obviously, PC. So, you could say, obviously, don't forget the mobile, right? This is just as much. So now cloud gaming has opened that up, the ability to either play on your mobile, play on your TV if you've got a Nintendo, not a Nintendo, if you've got like an NVIDIA-based device, so you can, you could do NVIDIA Stream. All of those additional factors are contributing to what kind of ties into what we experienced back in 1983, right? Mm-hmm. So there's the big similarities, right? And I don't disagree, honestly, with Keon. We do have a lot of, and this is, I'm trying to say this in a manner that does not demean, demoralize, or diminish the work or effort of any and all game developers. Every game developer, has a dream to be able to publish their video games. Some are more fortunate enough to be on a AAA or a AA or a single A. Some are purely independent, so they don't have all that additional, additional input of money or capital to make their games bigger and better. But there is a dearth of video games. And that's why you see things like the Humble Bundle, which allows people to play, to get like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 games for a super, super low price. But I mean, the crash, I don't know if we're going to see it because I think today's market and industry has several factors that allow it to survive things like this. One of the things he mentioned, was, Nintendo's decision to make games $80. You've heard me say this on this show plenty of times. I'm not surprised to see the increase of cost of games. Is it right or is it fair? That's a subjective question. But considering, and I've said this in the past, when you have budgets 10, 15 years ago when the prices jumped from 50 to 60, the budgets from back then do not support the budgets of now. Right, so you've got big AAA games that are going $200, $300, $400, $500 million to develop. Yeah, you need either one of two things: a price increase on games, or everybody's favorite, microtransactions. Right, that's the only way to make. I'll preface this by saying probably the only way to make AAA games profitable in a way. Right, the double and single A games, maybe not so much, because their budgets aren't as large. But when you have a $500 million budget between marketing, the overhead of paying developers, the cost of software, the cost of servers and infrastructure to make those, to support those services, yeah, not surprised on the increase of the cost of games. And look, if you really want to go to that point where you're examining what is, my cost per hour or game per hour, if I play a game more than 8 or 10 hours, it could potentially, I could say, yeah, it's worth my time. But I mean, you take a game like Dune Awakenings, right? Or a game like Doom: The Dark Ages, where they take my attention elsewhere for a good 8, 10, 20 hours out of the way. It's worth it. I absolutely would say that. And, especially if it then becomes a multiplayer game where I can play and I can interact and interface with my friends online, it becomes absolutely, a much better, return on investment for me as a consumer. But do I think that we're close, or do I think that there will be a crash? I don't think so. I hope not. Right? Because, when we turn around and we see it in the news, or we see it on Twitter or everything, we see friends in the industry who have lost their jobs, who are no longer employed, who have lost their livelihood. It's safe to say that, you see a lot of Americans still living paycheck to paycheck. So, them losing their welfare is amongst the worst parts of being in the gaming industry. And it's a scary proposition. I wouldn't want to be in that position.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And here's the thing. I think this is going to help people to be very selective on what to buy. So if your game is really good, people are going to go out there and support. Doesn't matter if it's, cheap or not cheap, So, but here's a couple of things that our listeners been posting here. This is from on Twitch. Texas Tony posted, I said I wasn't going to buy a PS5 Pro due to the price, and now I just purchased one. Financial situations change. I'm a gamer first and foremost. I will eventually get a Switch 2 as well. There will be a slump, but not a crash. I totally agree with you. I think that people are going to be just very selective of when they're going to buy from non. This is from Zan Powell. Just my opinion. People that claim that video games are crashing don't really know business. Business will rise and fall, not in a year, but over years. So people that claim this narrative that video games are doomed are looking for a clickbait content. What you think, Pete? And there's a question coming up very soon.
You're always going to see clickbait comment. I think that's part of the see me, hear me thing of this age of social media, where everybody jumps on there and wants to say something that takes their attention, or gets, that gets visibility and seen. I disagree. I will say, though, like I said, I think people will say anything for a response these days, whether it's good or bad. But as far as, I don't know, that's my opinion. I'll stick with that.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, so we have another question here. This is from Teak Arcade. Gamer Tech Radio, do you think with the environment of $70 to $80 games are creating an opportunity for indie games to thrive? Of course, like I said before, if your game is cheap, and it's good, people are going to buy it. So no matter what, like for example, Exhibition 33 was the price was really good, and it's been selling like crazy throughout the years. I know there's another game from the developers of Sifu. What's the name of the soccer game that just got released a couple months ago? That also has been selling like crazy. People have been playing it left and right. Do you remember what I'm talking about, Pete?
No.
I can't remember the name of the game, but it's a soccer. It's a soccer game, but it's the same creators from that worked on
PES.
I think it's Rumble. I can't remember. It's been a while. But anyways, yeah. So again, it all depends on the game. If it's good, it's going to sell. I think it's going to definitely help indie games to sell more because of it. The past year or two already, we've been seeing a lot of the indie games from the studios trending on different stores, especially on Steam. on top, selling like crazy. So
Rematch
all the-
is what you're thinking.
oh, rematch. I said Rumble. I don't know why. Rematch. There you go. Well, totally different names.